AI is something that's top of mind for a lot of leaders today in their digital transformation initiatives. But how should leaders be treating their AI projects and how should they lead their organizations into AI? That's what I want to talk about here today. My name is Eric Kimberling. I'm the CEO of Third Stage Consulting. We're an independent consulting firm that helps clients throughout the world with their digital transformation and AI initiatives. And one of the common things we help clients with is trying to figure out and get their arms around how do we deploy AI in our organizations. Now, I share a lot of content about AI on my YouTube channel and through other outlets about general strategy and tools that could be used and things of that nature, but I haven't yet talked about leadership and how executives should be leading AI initiatives. And that's what I want to dive into here today is how should we be thinking about AI and how can we lead an AI effort from a leadership perspective? And I'm also going to touch on the strategy side of it as well. So be sure to stick around because I'm going to whiteboard one strategy that we've seen work really well with some of our clients. Now, if you'd like to learn more about AI strategy and implementation and how to make your AI initiative successful, I encourage you to download our free guide to AI strategy and implementation. It contains a number of best practices and metrics and lessons in organizations that have deployed AI and they're looking to deploy AI. So you can find that book and read it for free by scanning the QR code right here or go to the links below. Before I jump into the strategy and leadership that you could be pursuing for your organization, let's dive into what you should not do and where you should not start. Now, I want to give Shopify, the company Shopify, as an example here, or a use case of what not to do. Recently, shortly before filming this video, the CEO of Shopify sent out a memo to all of its employees saying, hey, guess what? We all need to be using AI. On the surface, that's okay, but he went further in saying that I need you to justify to me how you're going to be using AI in your jobs. And this was a memo sent to all employees. He also said, we're not going to be hiring any more people until you can justify why AI can't do that job to fill that role before we start to hire people from it. So in my opinion, this was a terrible way to roll out AI and a terrible way to set the tone for the potential innovation and benefits of AI, because now you're starting off in a place of fear with your organization. Now they're worried and uncertain already as it is, but now you're making that worse by saying you have to use AI, you have to figure it out. And by the way, we're thinking about how we can reduce headcount because we're not going to hire people unless we can prove that AI can't do that job. Now, it's probably highly likely that over time, AI will automate certain parts of jobs and it might reduce the need for increased headcount over time. But by setting that tone right up front early on and stating that as a mission for the AI initiative, he's creating a culture of fear and uncertainty and doubt, which is going to lead to pretty significant resistance to change and backlash, even for a tech-driven organization like Shopify. So that's what you shouldn't do. So what I want to do in the rest of this video is talk about what you should do to lead your organization through its AI strategy and other AI initiatives. So at this year's Stratosphere in August, we've got an exciting agenda. On day one, it's going to be the welcome reception, a lot of networking, so it's a great way to meet some of the other peers that will be at the event. And then on day two is the full day of packed dual sessions. So there's 2 tracks happening throughout the day. You can pick which sessions you want to go to. And then on day 3, there's a half day of sessions, followed by a VIP lunch for those of you that register for the VIP passes. The first thing you can do to be successful with your AI initiative is to start small. Because I don't know about you, but when I think about AI and all the different ways it could be used within our business and within our clients' businesses, it's overwhelming. There's just so many different ways you could be using AI. There's endless and infinite possibilities on how you could be using AI within your organization. And so what you need to do is not try to boil the ocean and not try to get overwhelmed from day one, and instead start small. Start with little mini use cases of how the organization could be using AI. Now, taking this sort of a bottoms-up approach can be really powerful, but also unclear to an executive who's trying to lead an AI initiative. So let me illustrate for you what I mean by this. So at the top of the organization, you have executives and all the executive functions that go along with that. And then the typical org chart is just going to have multiple different divisions and departments and locations and work groups and all that good stuff. So these are all these different parts of your business. And rather than taking a top-down approach, what we'd say is you want to take more of a bottoms-up approach to pilot and start small. And when I say pilot and start small, what I would suggest is that you pick off people from either multiple areas, or even if you want to focus on one area of your business, find a small part of that department and let that small work group figure out how they think they could be using AI within their day-to-day work. And so you might have, hundreds or thousands of people in each of these boxes here, but you might pick off just a couple people throughout that are focused on AI and just trying to experiment essentially with AI and the tool sets that are available. And by the way, you don't need to go out and buy and procure super fancy AI technologies for this. Many of you probably already have tools you could start with. If you use Microsoft Office 365, you probably have access to Copilot, or at the very least, you probably have the option to get ChatGPT for your enterprise. So there's a lot of different tools out there that you could get for pretty low cost without a big, massive implementation, and you can let people start playing with it, not putting it into production yet, not actually using it for day-to-day work, but just testing and trying different ways of using AI within their individual business processes. So starting small is something that can make it a lot less overwhelming than looking at this entire universe of what you could be using AI for. Instead, you can start with these small little use cases. Some are going to fail, and that's okay, and you have to be comfortable with that. And some are going to succeed wildly, and some are going to be moderate successes that you may deprioritize based on the results. So the idea here, though, is that if we truly want to leverage the power of AI, we need to leverage the power of the people we have and make them part of the solution, because that will help address the change resistance and the fear, uncertainty, and doubt that comes along with AI that I mentioned earlier in this video. And it'll also give you better ideas than you as an executive might ever come up with on your own. Most executives don't know all these granular business processes and workflows. They don't fully understand how AI could be used to automate some of these business processes and workflows. So allowing your people to go through that process and figure out that stuff on their own is something that can be very powerful. And this is where we get involved with clients a lot, is we'll actually start up here and look at what the strategy is for the organization, but then we'll go down to more of an agile approach to AI and start to work with these end users and employees to help them figure out and brainstorm ways that they could be using AI to improve their business processes. So if we start small, pilot something, test things out, that's one of the first steps to a successful AI leadership effort. Now, once we've piloted and tested and innovated and tried out different things at the lower level, we're going to identify some things that worked really well. First of all, let's start with some things that aren't going to work well. We might find that a couple of these things just aren't really worth the time and effort yet. It might be something we prioritize later. But then we're going to find things that look like they could be a super big beneficial improvement to the business. And so let's just say in this case, one division or one department found a way that's a total game changer for the operations of that department. And let's just say it's something that other parts of the organization might benefit from. So in this case, now that we've proven this out, we've tested, we've defined a process, we've fine-tuned it at the small granular level, now we can start to roll it out to other parts of our business and start to scale it across the organization. Now, of course, we have to make sure we're scaling it to parts of the organization where it makes sense. If this is a finance group, for example, it might not be that they're scaling their finance AI operations to other departments. It might be that they're just scaling it throughout the organization or throughout this department here. So there's a couple different ways you could scale, but for those of you that are in a diversified organization with multiple functions supporting multiple areas, it might be that you have certain processes or AI use cases that you could use to scale across the enterprise. And then as we're going through this process here, we don't want to just scale one by one or case by case these different AI tools and processes without also moving it up the organization. And what I mean by this is if you have a business process center of excellence, this is an easy way to scale or to leverage the learnings at the lower level up to this business process center of excellence. Or if you don't have a standalone business process team or department within your organization, you could create one, even if it's a part-time role or a part-time function, or even if it's something like a company like ours at Third Stage Consulting can help with. This is a way we help our clients, is to really look at what are the success stories down here and how can we capture that as sort of a playbook for how we're going to use AI going forward. Now, once we've done this and we've captured all the success stories down here, we've even documented and captured the things that didn't work out well, or maybe they're not working out well enough to deploy right now to the rest of the organization. We want to now work from the top down. So we sort of shift from the experimental, innovation-driven use cases down here. We figure out what works, what scales, what we want to leverage across the enterprise. Now we take that up to the center of excellence so that we can define a more clear and a more deliberate strategy for AI longer term. And we take these lessons down here and we apply that. So this is where we can start to take our AI strategy, and this is the ops, the technology, the organization, everything that you would expect to see in a people process technology type of strategy. You want to start scaling down the organization. So we've taken these lessons, we've learned from it. Now we've created a more clear blueprint and roadmap for how we're going to use AI longer term. And you start to drive that down the organization and be more aligned in terms of how you're rolling that out throughout the entire enterprise. Now, part of this also is going to entail a more clearly defined organizational change strategy. So this is where we start to redesign the organization. We start to look at ways that we can improve the way we're organized as a result of the fact that we have these lessons down here. Now we're taking a more strategic approach at the top level, defining what those business processes are going to look like going forward, what the organizational structure is going to look like going forward, and certainly how are we going to use AI within that going forward. And that blueprint, that sort of phase zero of implementation planning for the broader AI initiative is something now that we can sort of flip now, start at the top and push it down throughout the entire organization. So then as we grow, we go acquire other companies, we merge with another company, we've got a clear playbook or a blueprint for what our processes and tool sets are going to look like and how we're going to be organized. Now, funny thing here, it's not just AI where you'd want to do this, it's any sort of technology initiative, but we're here talking about AI, so I'll focus on how we do that within the context of AI. Now, if you'd like to learn more about the change management piece of it, I want to encourage you to download our Guide to Organizational Change Management. That hopefully will give you some ideas on how you can manage the change that comes along with AI leadership and AI strategy. You can find that by scanning the QR code right here. You go to the links below. I also encourage you to download our Guide to AI Strategy and Implementation. You can find that here with this QR code or the links below. I hope you found this information useful and hope you have a great day. Their AI initiatives. So what I want to do, endless possibilities, infinite through AI. So what I want to